Thank you so much for being with us. My name is Olayinka Makinwa. I head the Competence Center Agribusiness at the Delegation of German Industry and Commerce. We are organizing this webinar series together with our close partners at GIZ, particularly the SDG Market Building Initiative, and I have one of my colleagues from GIZ, Zainab Dati, with me today to speak about what they do as an organization. So again, thank you so much and a very good morning to you. It's a pleasure to have so many of you with us. And in a moment, we would also be introducing our speakers. You can see them already in the background. They've got the videos on. So hi to our speakers. Thanks for being with us today. And Bola, our moderator, would be introducing them. And then, of course, we'll be hearing from them directly as well. Like I said, my name is Yinka Makinwa. I sit at the Delegation of German Industry and Commerce in Nigeria. We have been in Nigeria for about 40 years with offices in Lagos and in Abuja. Our Competence Center Agribusiness is a pretty new one. We were just established last year, and we started our department with a monthly webinar series which started last year, which continues on this year. This year, we're specifically focusing on post-harvest losses, and every single month on the first Wednesday between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m., we deal with a different crop. And what we're looking at today is fruits and vegetables. So just a bit of housekeeping for our webinar. We ask every single participant to please switch off their videos and their sound, so their microphones and the videos, please keep them off. We will only have our speakers, our moderator, our contributors switch on their videos when they are speaking, as they are doing right now. As you would have known or heard from our registration portal as well, we are recording the session. The session would be recorded and posted on YouTube afterwards. So please do have a look afterwards and also share the webinar, the link with interested partners or friends who might be interested in finding out more about who we are, but also the conversation that we're having with really experienced professionals. The presentations that our speakers would be using will also be disseminated right after the webinar. So please don't worry, you don't necessarily have to take notes. We will be sharing the presentations with all of you after. Zainab would speak a bit about who she is and what they do at SDG Market Building. But of course, our idea is not just to come together and have a chat, but really offer viable solutions to Nigerian businesses. So Zainab would be your direct contact person. If you are an SME struggling with post-harvest losses and you feel that you can benefit from some consultancy services and just some advice and hand-holding, Zainab is the person for you, but she would be introducing herself with a brief presentation in a moment. If you have any questions, please use the chat function, and we are keeping a close eye on the questions that are being posted in the chat, and we will be returning to them after the presentations to go through them. So please don't worry. Write all your questions in the chat. We have moderators who are keeping an eye on those questions and who will be addressing all of the questions thereafter. We're hoping for this to be a really lively, engaging, interactive webinar. So yes, please do ask all your questions. No question is silly. Let's just have a really enjoyable and engaging webinar today. So that's it from my end. Thanks again for joining us, and I really look forward to your contributions. Again, participants, please switch off your videos and your microphones. Only our speakers would have them on. Over to you, Zainab, and welcome. Zainab, your microphone is off. Please switch it on. Thank you.
All right. Good morning. Can you all hear me?
Yes, we can. Good morning.
Okay. Morning. How is everyone doing? Thank you for joining us today. My name is Zainab Dati, and I am a technical advisor for the project development program, where I also provide a similar service to the SDG Market Building, where we develop sorry, my phone is going off. Where we do develop projects, financially viable projects for the agricultural sector, to enable them to to get investors or to get any sort of technology or solutions to their business. Mostly we're looking at medium to large entities, but first of all, I'm just going to share my screen so I can start. Excuse me, I just had sort of things going on my screen. So I'll share my screen right now. Just a little bit. Okay. Okay. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes.
So the SDG, just going to put it on side mode. Can you see it that?
Something for over a year, and some young hotshot came in happy.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Really having some issues here.
Yeah.
Can you see my screen? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So what is the SDG market building? Well, first of all, I'll start with the fact that SDG market building is commissioned by the BNZ, and what we're trying to do here is to provide free project and business development services to the agricultural sector to encourage and contribute to the SDGs, which is looking at the greener economy, improving resource efficiency, reducing loss and hunger, agricultural loss, and reducing hunger through obviously increased production, and in the process, creation of jobs through the various projects that we hope to be involved in. How do you know if this is right for you? Well, we're looking at if you're in the agricultural outputs, if you're active in agricultural output or production or processing, are you also interested in investing in various agricultural climate smart technologies? Then you can look at this and decide if you want to be involved in what the SDG market building has to offer. All right. So how do we support you? Well, what we do is we provide you with various services, such as helping you to draft your investment dossier. When we do this, we're also going to help you to match with suitable finance partners, with suitable tech providers, whether local or international, as we have a few partners, a few tech providers we are partnering with. And we also look at it as this is your investment, your ROI. However, we do not finance, but what we do is we work with various, we are working with not only the tech providers who have the technology, climate smart technology, but some of them are also able to provide sort of fair or a fair form of payment for what it is that the technology they're providing, or at the same time we're looking to see if there's financing from other avenues. So what are we looking at? I'm going to go really fast into this, but we're going to share this in the meantime at the end of the webinar. Today's webinar. So we're looking at our focus areas, so medium and large producers or processors, because usually they at least they're registered, they have sort of a history that we can look at and see how we can help them, so that when the technology providers coming or the investors who are interested coming, we're able to show them like this is a good investment. Then we look at unions or cooperatives, which help to put together smaller producers, which will make it easier for us to also put them together and provide for them the services we have. And we also look at medium and large customers or licensed warehouses, which could be in the form of storage space, cool storage, or even in the transport sector, looking at like cooling vans and such. We're in two countries at the moment, two, Kenya and Nigeria. The technologies we support are irrigation, post-harvest mechanization, and agrivoltaics. We'll share this so you can at least have a look at what we mean by all of these. The reasons we're going into irrigation, obviously we all know that, resource efficiency, the use of water, cutting down on the cost, even the access of water, and even the type of water being adequate for the plant, the specific products wow, okay. Then post-harvest mechanization, we're looking at obviously reducing waste at the end, towards after production, making sure that your produce isn't wasted or doesn't actually just isn't left on the farm simply because you don't have any other way to either store it, either to process it to other sort of end products, whether it's as a spice or any other thing. Then we're looking at agrivoltaics, which is the use of land, for both agricultural use as well as providing energy. There are various uses, various advantages to agrivoltaics that have been researched, and so you can find that out online. So I'm just, this.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Zainab. You're on mute again. I can't hear you.
Please tell her that the slides are not moving. Please let her know the slides are not moving.
She had said earlier the slides aren't working, so there's just a cover slide. Please be patient. And as a participant, we would ask you please to keep your microphone off. Please share your comments in the chat function. But as we said at the beginning, we will be sharing all the slides. The slides currently displayed aren't moving because they aren't complete, but the completed presentation will be shared thereafter. Thank you.
Oh, I didn't realize you couldn't see my slides. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you and we can see your cover page.
Oh, because I'm supposedly on the last slide. Oh, okay. I'm not sure what's happening, but it could just be an internet network issue.
We will share the presentation afterwards.
Yeah, okay. So our process is basically what we do is I myself as the technical advisor, I identify a business, I visit the site, or we try and do it sometimes remotely, depending on where the site is located. I visit the site, do some analysis, take pictures, speak with the farmer or the owner or the manager of the farm or the plant. Find out what they're looking for, find out if it's within what the mandate of the program itself. Then come back, we develop a dossier with me and my team who are here on the call itself. One of them is Mr. Alexander Haddad, who is in the Germany office. And then we develop a dossier that would allow us to share, with your permission, with possible investors, technology providers, here internationally, depending on, I think sometimes it all depends on your what you're able to afford, what you're interested in. If you're looking for more local solutions as opposed to larger, maybe international solutions. So whatever we do, it would be with your consent, as well as with, we will advise on what we think is best considering what our network. Then based on this, we match you, or we allow you to, or we match you with possible investors. Then you now get to speak with them. You get to come to an agreement or not, depending on what they can provide you. And at this point, what we do is we are in the background still supporting. If you still need us to come in and maybe the matches we provided are not what you're looking for, we will still go back and see what we can find for you. You're not obligated to stick with us throughout this process after the dossier. If you already have somewhere where you know that they can provide you with what you're looking for, you're free to go. But at the same time, we would like to think like we provide a great network and support throughout this process. And what we would like to see is obviously the local market developing with projects and with the organization on site and seeing the takeoff of this project. We have which I will share in the chat because I didn't realize this wasn't really showing, the slides were moving, but I'll share the links for the platform we use, Leverest, where we put up all the projects we've worked on when we've gotten to the stage of looking for investors or providers. So we use this app, this platform for access to businesses who are interested in coming in, whether it's coming into Nigeria or Kenya and investing in this project. What we would also like to, real quick, lastly, we'd like to encourage businesses here, providers as well, to please sign up on Leverest. We'll put the link on the chat to sign up and register on the Leverest. It's free, so that you are receiving and you are able to have access to these to these projects that we have ongoing in Nigeria and various other, GIZ projects. And that's my.
Thank you, Zainab.
Sorry about that.
Thank you, Zainab. So just because we are running out of time, we want to speed things along. Thank you so much for introducing SDG Market Building. And of course, she'll be sharing her contact details and we'll be sharing the presentation afterwards. I would like to hand over to Mr. Buller from Topan to quickly introduce himself and his organization. He won't be giving a presentation, but rather speaking about who they are, what they do, and moderating today's session. And we have two really exciting and experienced speakers with us today who will be sharing presentations afterwards. So thanks again for being with us. Like I said earlier, please keep your microphones and your videos off if you're not actively speaking. This counts for everyone. Use the chat function to ask any questions and we'll be happy to engage with them afterwards. Over to you, Mr. Bola. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mrs. Olainka, for the beautiful presentation. Zainab, thank you very much. This is Mr. Oyeleke Bola, Oyeleke Job. I'm the president of Tomato and Orchard Producer Association of Nigeria. I will be moderating the post-harvest laws on food and vegetable today. Let me talk a little bit about Topan. Topan is an organization. We work on the production of tomato, vegetable, and fruit. We make sure that we work towards the post-harvest laws to see how post-harvest laws would be something of the past in Nigeria. But, we'll continue this discussion with our very good speaker around there. We have a very expert in post-harvest laws, both technology and when we talk about farmer too. We'll be also starting from Ms. Ruth. Ms. Ruth, I want you to introduce yourself before Inemeka will introduce herself too. So I'm handing over to you, Ms. Ruth, so that you can introduce yourself better. Ms. Ruth, hello, can you please?
Hello, good morning. Good morning, Mr. Bola. Good morning, everyone. My name is Ruth, and I'm a farmer and a consultant. And thank you for having me on this platform.
Mr. Inemeka, please, can you introduce yourself too to the audience?
Yeah, thank you very much, Bola, and a pleasure to be here. Good morning, everyone. My name is Inemeka Ikegwono. I run Code Hubs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So, Ms. Ruth, I would like you to do your presentation so that we start our discussion from there.
All right, let me just share my screen in a moment. Okay, can you see my screen?
No, not yet.
Not yet.
Okay. What of now?
Not yet.
Wisdom, can I ask you to please pull up the presentation?
What of now?
Oh.
Can you see the
Not
presentation
yet.
now?
Yeah.
Yes, we can see it now.
You can go on.
All right. So good morning, everyone, once again. And I will be sharing with us very quickly on on field activities based on the topic we're addressing today. That's on the post-harvest loss management. Okay, so we quickly define what it is. I believe we do know what, but based on what we're doing today, we just say the post-harvest food loss can be defined as measurable qualitative and quantitative food loss along the supply chain, starting at the time of harvest till its consumption or other end users. And from FAO reports, especially for Nigeria, it's been recorded that 38 trillion naira worth of waste from the vegetable space is always is usually recorded. And then the fruits and vegetable takes 52% of this waste per year. And we can see that the food waste, it cuts across the vegetables, the fruits, and of course the food crops. But with our focus today on vegetables, like I said earlier, it takes about 52%, especially because they are perishable foods, and then the shelf lives can't be compared to other food commodities we have in the market. Now, for those of us that are familiar with Bukuru market in Plateau State or the Naibawa market in Kano State, you will agree with me that the volume of waste in those places, they are so alarming that, it will take a whole lot of technicality to be able to address this issue of post-harvest harvest losses. Then very quickly, I'm just going to jump into the challenges with post-harvest loss and the methods that have been adopted over the years, which they're being currently adopted on the field by the farmers, and methods to reduce this post-harvest losses. Number one, I know we're talking about post-harvest loss, but one of the things we're trying to help the farmers understand, part of the knowledge transfer that we're giving to the farmers, is the fact that if we must address this issue of post-harvest loss, they must start to embrace the use of hybrid varieties that are disease resistant, that can endure long distance transportation, especially as we understand that once these things are being grown, they are being moved from one place to the other, from one state to the other. And it's important that farmers begin to understand that we begin to move away from just using the extracted seeds from the comfort of their homes, to begin to embrace the use of hybrid varieties, that can withstand some of these things that could result into post-harvest loss. And like we can see on the screen right now, of course, the suitable seeds using the hybrid varieties, especially the F1 as much as possible. Now, the second is the pre-harvesting, where the challenge mostly is crop diseases. From the experience on the field, farmers are still yet to get there in identifying, major diseases that they could quickly address on their farms to be able to reduce, post-harvest loss. Some do not even know when, they have disease occurrence on their farms. They just do understand, oh, okay, let me spray my chemical when I'm supposed to spray. Let me apply herbicides. But then the technical knowledge is still gradually still seeping gradually, into these smallholder farmers. And part of the way this can be addressed so as to reduce the post-harvest loss, to begin to introduce digital farming tools to the farmers. Now, I would say that usually from the northern part of Nigeria, say out of 50 farmers, probably you could just have, say, 5 farmers that owns an Android phone, or that can even use that can use an Android to be able to access basic technology for them to address issues on their farms. And for all of this to be reduced as much as possible, for farmers listening right now and probably want to work with farmers, it's important that we begin to introduce digital farming to farmers, such that, you know, when they have these tools, or applications on their phones, it can easily help them or inform them of, you know, what's going on their farm, and that can be quickly addressed before, you know, it deteriorates to the point where when they're harvesting their produce, it's you know, it's been affected by so much of diseases and pests. Now, number 3 is the issue of storage. Now, let me use the example of, say, either tomatoes or the chili. Now, we will agree with me that when they are harvesting, it's not possible sometimes for them to do the harvest, say, entirely for that particular time. Sometimes it could take, say, 3 days to harvest for them to begin sorting, to begin, you know, putting in baskets and all of that, or the raffia basket, or the crates, or whatever means. And you see, from the time of harvest to putting together those produce, sometimes these crops have been affected. And one of the things that over time that I've participated in introducing to farmers is the usage of zero energy cooling chamber. We can see the picture over here. We can go online to read more about them for the lack of time. Now, in addition, I have technical knowledge. Yes, we have extension officers on the field, but it's important that these farmers begin to get first-hand information, especially when we talk about modern innovations, as to what they need to know. The trainings now, we need to begin to tailor the trainings towards the farmers understanding post-harvest loss, because for most people, for most farmers, is I go to my farm, I plant, I harvest, and then I move it. Whatever is wasted it's really no big deal for some farmers, but then they yet to, not all of them now, they yet to understand that even the waste can also make part of their money if they know what to do to reduce those losses. Okay, so for some that have been embracing the technical knowledge, yeah, they've been able to cut down, you know, this, and address the issue of post-harvest loss. Of course, processing, we need more processors on board to be able to engage these farmers in terms of staggering their plants, sitting down with them to say, you grow for us at this particular time, you know, and then we buy from you. So we need more people like that. And in solving that solution, we need to begin to engage more merchant off-takers, more or less like the local, you know, what they call dealer lists in the north, like the dealers, the similes, they call them, like they buy, let's say, in trucks. So these people, they need to be integrated into the system more deliberately, to be able to cut down, you know, the issue of post-harvest loss, especially because, like we know, vegetables do not have long shelf life, and it's important that there are buyers that picking these things from the farmers as immediate as possible. And of course, we have the logistics and transportation. Now, the challenges in Nigeria, I'm sure we can count the non-refrigerated transport systems, and it's important that we begin to embrace the cold room transportation services, which I believe Mr. Enamika would speak to. Again, ways that we mitigate these things it's important we begin to have structured linkage of smallholder farmers to market demand of both large anchor buyers and local alternative markets. For example, customized contract farming. When I say customized contract farming, for if you visited, say Tomato Jos, you will see how these farmers are being engaged from planting phase to the harvest phase, so they do not even have to worry about who is buying their produce. And of course, it's important we begin to to speak to aggregation of farmers, to train them, especially on post-harvest management. Yes, we've been having trainings on good agronomic practices, integrated pest management, soil management, but it's important farmers begin to have this wake-up call to reducing post-harvest loss intentionally. Because for some of them, there's still this attitude, oh, it's just a waste, there is nothing. But then these things, they are adding to, they're reducing their production cost and all of that. Of course, again, it's important that using innovative finance mechanisms to promote agricultural investment and facilitate distributions, acquisitions of technologies, particularly among smallholder farmers. You will all agree with me, it's still, when we talk in terms of technology, like I've mentioned before, in terms of access to finance, a lot of farmers are still having challenge. But if they are able to access the technologies they need, the finance they need in embracing the use of cold chain storage rooms, you see, it will go a long way to cut down the post-harvest loss. Of course, awareness creation and effective market information service. Let me just quickly run. I'm almost hitting my time. Okay, so now the challenges of managing post-harvest losses are not insurmountable. So in addition, we need to create awareness amongst farmers. It's important we begin to create awareness amongst them through capacity building, having very strong extension services and practical demonstration of post-harvest losses to mitigating technologies to ensure quick adoption and wider acceptance. There are a lot of solutions out there in terms that farmers can adopt very quickly, like the zero energy cooling chamber, like I showed us. And we can also have partners go into the space where these farmers grow their produce, and begin to give them smaller solutions that, say for example, a farmer that owns, say, 0.1 to 0.5 hectare of land can easily manage, handle, and probably invest into. And similarly, relevant stakeholders should collaborate to develop a sustainable and workable ecosystem for managing post-harvest losses through value-added market-driven programs. It's important that we begin to have key individuals move into where these farmers work and begin to build relationship with them, proffer smaller solutions that, through their cooperative systems, they can embrace such technologies to be able to address the issue of post-harvest losses. And I will say at this point, thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Ms. Ruth. In fact, this is a very good justice you make on this post-harvest loss. Let me quick run down what you have given us today to digest and what struck my mind on this. You say that FAO have already made a research that Nigeria we are losing over 38 trillion naira of waste, and annually that's giving us 52% of waste annually. Wow, that is a big one. And again, you further on go on talking about hybrid seed. Nigeria should turn from the grain to hybrid seed, F1. You talk about pre-harvest, disease, input fertilizer application. You talk about digital tools, digital farming, storage, modern information of post-harvest loss. You talk about technical knowledge, processor should come into the country. You talk about quorum. You talk about structural linkage of smallholder farmer. Wow, that is a very big one. You talk about training of farmer too. This is very important in this our discussion. But before we go on this our discussion, I would like to pick your last statement when you talk about digital quorum. I would like us to invite a very good expert, a friend, a brother that has been on this technology for years. And I should be calling him a doctor in America, but because of the struggle to make sure that this coaching and this value are real being effective in Nigeria today, he did not be able to make it doctor. But still yet, I will still introduce him as Dr. Inemeka. So please come in to give us your presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
Mr.
Bola, for the promotion. Thank you very much. Let me quickly share my screen with the group and jump into the presentation. I don't know why it's not coming up. Let me try again to open the sharing tray. And, here we are. So can the presentation is not coming up. Can we get the previous one shared?
Wisdom, please share the presentation.
Yeah, sure. Oh, probably, I don't know. Can we have a full screen?
Track. Oh, okay.
Can we have a full screen, Wisdom?
Okay, you can go on.
All right, but can it be a full screen? A full screen. So let me introduce myself. My name is Nnemeka Ikegwono, and I founded Code Hubs. Prior to setting up Code Hubs, I used to run the Smallholders Foundation, which actually was a nonprofit that did agricultural education using a radio. In 2003, next slide, please, Wisdom. In 2003, we founded the Smallholder Farmers Rural Radio, from which we actually did a lot of agricultural shows in Nigeria and other African countries. Next slide. And really the core of that agricultural radio program was really to spend time in the field with farmers and to understand the challenges and opportunities within the smallholder agricultural space. You know, in the course of my travels, I identified the problem of food spoilage. Next slide, please. Really, the problem of food spoilage in Nigeria comes as a result of lack of infrastructure to bring out food from core production centers to consumption centers across the country. The Rockefeller Foundation said that about 45% of fresh fruit and vegetables are actually lost due to lack of cold storage, and the country remains a country of smallholder farmers, 93 million smallholder farmers and agricultural food supply chain actors lose about 25% of their income. Yeah, next slide. And really, when you travel across the highways, this is a familiar picture. It's either you see citrus, mangoes, or all manner of fresh produce dumped on the roadside. When you look at this, it's huge because this food should actually be stored, preserved, and consumed. Because really, the reason for food production is to nourish the body for human consumption, or in some cases, to use it for livestock feeding. You know, next slide. And the problem really exists because the first mile, the production centers have no form of storage. And the last mile, which are all outdoor food markets, also do not have any form of storage. Refrigeration, we all know, can be used to extend the shelf life of this food. But, you know, the power grids are not capable of delivering reliable energy. And often most of the equipment for storage and preservation at lower temperatures are really expensive and out of touch for the producers to really afford. You know, next slide. So when you look at the picture of food spoilage, you know, post-harvest losses, really, these are food intended for human consumption that is really wasted during production, post-harvest processing and distribution. And you really need core infrastructure, you know, to support production, post-harvest processing and that distribution. The blue circles represents really countries where you have massive spoilage due to lack of infrastructure, and the orange circles represents countries where you have food waste, which is food actually thrown away by human choices. So in 2015, when we set up Code Hubs, we decided that the company would design, build, commission, operate, and maintain solar-powered walk-in cold stations. The cold stations are very well designed to be installed in first mile farm clusters and last mile or outdoor food markets, or even the middle, which are often the fresh produce aggregation centers. Yeah. Next slide, please. So when we actually designed the cold room, it was specifically designed to support all weather conditions and make it as green as possible. So we are trying to demonstrate green cooling by using refrigerant gases that do not have any ozone depletion or global warming potentials. Yeah. Next slide. And aside the fact that these cold rooms are meant to be green, it also has IoT of things, digitalized remote monitoring systems that captures ambient temperature, cold room temperature, number of times the door of the cold room has been opened, also daily solar irradiation and the amount of energy stored in either thermal or in the batteries. And these are all data that are collected and stored in Microsoft Azure Cloud, where we just log in and see the daily performance of each of these cold stations. Yeah, next slide. We are living in a world of digital, and each of these cold stations also have cameras that actually shows us what is going on and what is stored in each cold room. We have this cold room at Relief Market, Owerri, where there is massive storage of green beans and spring onions and other fresh produce, including apples and grapes also imported from South Africa being stored in these cold stations. Next slide, please. So this was our first cold room installed at Relief Market, Owerri, where it was installed in 2015, which today has a lot of customers and storing all manner of fresh produce. I'll just run through some of these cold stations for you and also finalize with information gathered from all of them. Next slide. We also have this cold room installed at this cold room was installed at Bypass Market Yola, because I can't see the tablet there, and it has 143 users. Most of the storage coming into the cold room are mostly fresh fruits, as you can see in the next slide. If you can show us that, yeah. So we have watermelon, mangoes, we have a lot of carrots coming in, and that's another cold room at Jimita Market in Adamawa, also being used by 132 farmers. We often get a lot of greens and reds coming in, from the cabbage to all manner of chili and a lot of tomatoes too. Next slide, please. So there is also the deployment of the cold rooms in this market, the Duse Modern Market in Jigawa, and Kasuan, one in Gombe State, with 141 users at the moment. Next slide. Yeah, it also deployed at Muda Lawal Market in Bauchi. We have about 158 users in that market. And next slide. One of the most successful cold hubs we have deployed is actually in Potiskum at Mamadu Potiskum Main Market in Yobe State, where we have 144 users. Most commodities coming into the cold room ranges from fresh fruits, vegetables, and also fish and meat. But deploying technology is unique, it's good, but one of the things is really education. So we started to develop an educational class for so many of our customers, and part of that education is a learning by doing process. Next slide. That learning by doing process really is to demonstrate what cold storage does to fresh fruit and vegetables. When you compare fresh fruit and vegetables kept outside and the ones kept inside the cold room, how do we measure the quality, the texture, the color, the taste, what has changed and what is comparable between produce kept outside and the one kept inside. Next slide, please. So we do this once we go into a market to conduct this learning by doing process where vendors come to test the characteristics of food stored in the cold storage and compare it with the one kept outside. Next slide. We try to make these educational classes unique by offering a non-academic certification to most of the vendors in the market, and use that to also onboard them to start using the cold storage services. Next slide, please. So the fact is that farmers cannot afford to purchase these units outrightly. So we raise financing to build it, and we offer cooling as a service where we charge 200 naira to store one of those plastic crates inside the cold room overnight. Yeah, next slide. And each station is actually run by two ladies, one who oversees loading and offloading and collection of user fee, the main hub operator, and a lady market attendant who goes in to do marketing and deepening the education and onboarding new customers for the cold station. Yeah, next slide. So over the past 6 years, we have deployed 54 cold hubs in 22 states of Nigeria. Last year, we saved about 2,700 tons of food. That's the total volume of food stored across all the cold stations. We are now serving 5,250 users, created 66 jobs for women, saved more than 1 million tons of CO2 by using renewable energy exclusively across all the locations, and now integrating cold storage, cold refrigeration services to our customers, and the production of a returnable plastic crate as the right packaging material for food. Next slide. So one of the challenges we face is really customer adoption. You know, we need to do and invest a lot of money in education. The food supply chain starts from the rural communities with total lack of infrastructure. So deploying cold chain in such communities is really very expensive. And really, when you come into the cold chain space, there is still lack of talent within understanding refrigeration as a service, and also lack of talent in the renewable energy space, really. Next slide. Yeah, next slide, please. So just to jump in there and say, we've been supported by a wide range of partners, and from development financing to venture investors. And there is my email, phone number, and website. You know, I'll be very happy to answer your questions, both during this webinar and off the webinar, if you can reach me. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Inemeka. It's a very good presentation. Thank you very much. And before we continue, I would like to use this opportunity to thank the delegation of the Jama Industry and Commerce in Nigeria for putting all this thing together and to see where we can move further when it comes to post-harvest loss. And I would like to call upon Ms. Ruth, because the struggle for the post-harvest loss has been for long. We'll be working when it comes to field. Sometimes I call you the queen of the field, because when it comes to tomato, you're one of the great experts that I know in the field. We have been working for quite years on the struggle. And we are looking at 52% annually, because we've jumped from 50% to 52. And look at all the criteria what we have been losing from post-harvest loss. From the beginning of the struggle to date, what have you seen that we have improved from post-harvest loss? Because yes, you have identified quality challenges that we need to face. What are the improvement that we are at the stage now, Ms. Ruth?
Thank you, Mr. Bola. Like I mentioned earlier, so far some organizations have done well by giving good trainings on good agronomic practices and integrated pest management, and partly on how, when, and what to do during the harvest phase. So those are the things I think we've been able to improve on, especially in Nigeria, to see that farmers are able to reduce post-harvest losses. And of course, gradually we're beginning to have cold storage hubs come into the space. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mr. Bola. I'm not sure whether you can see the chat, but there are quite a few questions in the chat. So I'd like us to get the audience involved from the very beginning. Some of those questions are for Zainab. One was directed at Naimeke. So let us maybe just deal with the audience questions first, and then add some own personal reflections and questions. So perhaps while Mr. Bola is looking through the chat, a question to any of the audience members. We had a question saying earlier we heard about extension workers. According to a recent report, we have the lowest number of extension workers in Africa. How efficient are these workers and how can they be utilized better? So a question about extension workers and the role that they could play when it comes to post-harvest losses and particularly mitigating those losses. So that's a question, I guess, for any of the speakers.
Okay, thank you very much, Alainka. So please, maybe Mr. Nemeka can continue, can work on that.
Yeah, what's the question again?
About the extension workers. We have the lowest number of extension workers in Africa. How efficient are those workers and how can they be utilized better, particularly when it comes to training, educating farmers, working with farmers on mitigating losses? The role of extension workers.
I think extension services is critical within the agricultural space. The fact is that it has always been a preserve of the government to provide extension workers, and we really need to think of the role that the private sector can play in deploying extension services to smallholder farmers. You know, it is a critical aspect of the agricultural production space. And it can support both production and the post-harvest management at the same time. You know, myself, I started my career from the agricultural extension background, you know, using radio as a means of communication to farmers, and also reaching out to them often to conduct several field practical demonstrations, you know. But, you know, as more financing for agriculture reduces from the government side, you know, we need digital tools, we need ICT that can be used to drive extension services at scale, you know, and then we can decide where are we going to conduct field demonstrations based on responses from the people, responders, or people who are receiving the information. Yeah.
Great, thank you. Mr. Bola, can you see the questions now?
No, I'm not seeing the question from here. I'm trying to log it from the chat. I'm trying to change.
Not a problem.
Please,
so I'm just going to read through some of the
out.
other questions. Yes. So another question asked by Tope Adebuya is, and I guess it goes to Naimeke again, please give an insight into the setup costs of the cold rooms, e.g. for 1 to 3 ton storage facility with the offset monitoring technology in place. Also, do you provide asset leasing facility or are you open to partnerships? So the setup costs for running of these cold rooms.
Yeah, the setup cost for running the cold rooms differs together with the remote monitoring systems. We have a 3-ton capacity cold hub, which is the smallest. You know, there is a 10-ton and a 100-ton. And I will suggest to Tokwe to reach me at nemeka@coldhubs.com so we can discuss setup costs because it really varies. But again, you know, we are open to all forms of partnerships. You know, you can't do the work alone. You need as much partners as possible to be successful. So I will again encourage Tokwe to reach out so we can discuss partnership models that he is thinking about. Yeah.
Okay. Another question here is about food waste and animal feed. Other systems in place in other African countries that can be adopted for Nigeria. So initially we had a comment about food losses and food waste and how food waste can be used as animal feed. Are there any best practice examples that you could perhaps share with us based on your experience from within Nigeria or outside of Nigeria? So food waste for animal feed.
Yeah, okay. Actually, I should be able to take that as a moderator. I think it's a very good question for the food waste because even Topanto has started using tomato leaf, tomato plant. We turn it into food, animal food, which is very, very good because we see that in Brazil. We see how most of the plant of tomato after harvesting is being composed and turned into animal food. So I think we'll start that this year. We'll start training people. We'll start giving technical advice on that. We'll start working on that to see how all this wastage can be put together to turn into animal food. And I think Ruth too can talk a little bit about that too.
Ruth, do you have
Miss
best
Ruth?
practice or examples that you can share with us?
Well, with respect to making animal feeds, like Mr. Bola mentioned already, there are a lot of plant wastes that that we can even check up online in programming in making animal wastes, because these things come from plants. The waste are from plants. They can be, it's either through drying, you dry them, and depending on the kind of animal now, and it also depend on the kind of fruit, the plant waste. So yes, it's very possible.
Yes, it's possible. So the question is, are there very practical examples that you could share of farms that you've worked with who have been able to mitigate some of those wastes by transforming some of their food into animal products? Do you have examples that you can
Yeah,
share?
Okay,
yeah.
so in
Actually,
terms of, oh, sorry.
okay, continue.
Okay, in terms of practical example, in the northern part of Nigeria, what they do is once they have harvested, they gather it at a point, and then the animals feed directly. So, but when we're talking about processing them into, let me, for the lack of word, a standard animal feed, no, I don't have that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Another question that we have here is about post-harvest losses along the value chain. So now we're looking specifically at transportation. So Maker Solution offers cooling and storing practices, but what about the food losses that occur along the transportation route? What specific methods can be utilized to prevent or mitigate those losses that are due to transportation rather than storage? Do you have any experience here or any examples that you can share as to how to bypass losses because of transportation issues?
Okay, Mr. Inemeka, can you go with that before I
Sure.
come in?
I mean, getting the right, reducing food spoilage along the transportation route is, first of all, is to use the right packaging material. You know, first, you can't continue packing tomatoes in raffia baskets. The raffia wood has a lot of tiny needles, you know, that punctures the soft shell of the tomato, and it loses the water, and the water is actually the nutrients, the reason we eat tomato, you know. So we need to adopt the right packaging materials, and this is in returnable plastic crates. The plastic crate edges are smooth. It doesn't puncture the tomato, both any soft or hard shell, you know. And the second is to use refrigeration. There are different manner of refrigeration. Ambient temperature is possibly the best to move food from point A to point B. So at Cold Hubs, we just launched Cold Hub Logistics with 5 trucks and beginning transportation from Kano to Lagos and just to Lagos. You know, and we just started also production of those plastic crates for rental by the vendors and the farmers. Yeah.
Great,
Okay,
thank
I
you.
think I will come in. I think let me come in a little bit too, yeah, because this also takes us to extension service. This also takes us to decentralization of farming too. to this another means of reducing the post-harvest loss when it comes to long distance transportation. Like what we have been doing, I think we do that with Ms. Ruth 3 years on, that we're looking at where other regions too can also try to see how you look at where production and consumption is high too. What can we do to mitigate all these risks? We make sure that we also make sure that we go through extension service to make sure that we train smallholder farmer in the West, in the Southwest, to give them the ideology of how tomato can also plant in the rainforest area, to identify the normal seed, to identify the normal fertilizer for them to able to plant too. So these are all the other factors too that people can use to reduce post-harvest loss when we decentralize agriculture, where we don't put all our egg in one particular region, and we look at the infrastructure too. This come to infrastructure where Ms. Ruth was talking and Mr. Inemeka too. So when we look at all these things, we know that decentralization of agriculture is very, very important too.
Thank you, Mr. Bola. We have 2 more questions from the audience, and I'm just going to quickly read out, and these go to any of our speakers today. What is the availability of plastic crates like? So Nameka, you just mentioned the fact that you're producing plastic crates for transportation at the moment. What is the availability like?
Well, the plastic crates are available for rental. You know, a farmer or vendor can rent. It is available mostly in large scale markets like Farengada in Jos, Dan Magaji in Zaria, Mile 12 in Lagos. There are a lot of plastic crates, but you know, we have very small amounts of plastic crates. We need well beyond 20 million plastic crates in the country. I think we have about 2 to 3 million at the moment. So we are running a serious deficit. So we need to ramp up production. Yeah, but it's available.
Great, thank you so much.
I think Ms. Ruth, you're working with a smallholder farmer. I think you can also put some light on that when it comes to availability of the crate too.
Yeah, so like Mr. Inemeka mentioned, yeah, those are the major places where we have a good volume of crates. Yes, Zaria, Kano, some part of Kebbi, Plateau. Like you mentioned, we still need more because we're yet to get there in terms of number. So it would be nice if we can have partners, probably vendors that can go into the crate, providing crate services to the farmers and you know, to the likes of cold hubs, so that it can be readily available to the farmers and partners alike.
I also think that this is where the delegate for German industry and commerce in Nigeria should be looking into too. Because as the 2 panelists have discussed, we have a very shortage supply and the demand is very, very high. I think that is where Zainab too, you'll be looking at that and see how we'll also expand in that area too.
Thank you, Mr. Bola. There's one more question that I'm going to take from the audience, also because we've run out of time. The economics, and that's a question from Alice Madaki. The economic situation in Kaduna State is almost at a standstill due to the serious security crisis that we are facing. Please, how can we in the food processing sector be assisted with access to finance and also partnerships to access the market for our products? So they process whole lemon into powder, but the question is specifically about the security crisis we're facing in Nigeria, as stated by her, and how to move products from the north, from Kaduna, to the markets where there is the demand. How do we bypass or manage the security situation? Because a lack of movement or a lack of standstill, of course, leads to agricultural losses and waste. Any input, any thoughts on moving products through difficult regions?
Okay, I think Ms. Ruth, you're working the field. Can you please share a light for us before I add my voice? Hello, Ms. Ruth. Okay.
Sorry, I didn't get you. Your line scrambled at a point.
So this was a question about the economic situation in Kaduna State and the inability to move produce from Kaduna to where the market actually is due to the perceived security crisis. Do you have any expertise or experience in moving products from the north to the south where the demand is, but you'd have to pass through difficult regions in terms of the security situation?
Yeah, in terms of the security situation now, first of all, I think I will encourage that the farmer group should be in a cooperative. Number one. Number two, it's important that they begin to identify key buyers in that region. With respect to Kaduna State, which you mentioned, yes, they are crisis-prone areas, but then we still have the hard, the very, very, regardless of the situation in the state, we still have off-takers in this space. So I will advise, number one, the farmers should be in a group. Number two, because no off-taker would move into a space saying, I want to buy just from one person if you do not have a very, very large volume. And from experience, that can only be achieved by being in a cooperative. And then being in a cooperative can help any off-taker or processor to say, oh, I can take the risk moving into this area because I know I can get the volume of what I want, especially when the crises are not actually at the peak, like it's in a manageable state. So yeah, Kaduna, there are still some areas that, people can move into and still do business. Say the Zaria area, the Kubau area, some part of Kaduna State. Yeah, so that's what I would now have to say. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's very informative. Thank you.
Okay, just want to put some light on it. I think it's a very good question too. What Ms. Ruth was trying to tell you, trying to explain is that when you have a cooperative of farmer, they have trust in you. You don't need to travel every time on the road. When it comes to digital, that's why we come to digital tools. You can easily contact them. You can easily tell them that this is the product you need. With another idea is that you should be able to look at a very close region too, because we are encouraging off-taker to participate in the activity of farming, where you can form your cluster to a region where it's close to your demand, which is very, very good, which is going to save you a less security. You should also be looking at that when you're looking at the north. When you're in the west, be looking at the west. How can you work with the farmer there? How can you form them as a cooperative? How can you form your incubation system around your community where you can get your product and be more assured and more comfortable? So these are other parameters that we are also giving as extension service to individual too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We've reached the end of our webinar. We can't, unfortunately, address every single question because we've run out of time. But as we said at the beginning of the webinar, our purpose is not just to come together and have a chat about post-harvest losses in Nigeria, but our aim is really to bring people together, particularly farmers and people who could benefit from some consulting or advisory services, to really join the conversation and then also be matched with experts such as Zainab Dati from SDG Market Building at GIZ to receive some guidance and support. We had a question at the beginning from Terhile Uchi, who asked about engaging with GIZ, also because she was a trainer with GIZ previously. Those are questions that we cannot address within the chat because they're very specific, but we'd advise you to get in touch with Zainab, not just you, Terhile, but every single person in the chat if you would like to carry this conversation forward and also receive some advisory services. Zainab is going to share her email address in the chat if she hasn't already. But as we said at the very beginning, we would also be sharing the presentations of our speakers, our presenters with all of you after today's webinar for you to reach out to them and continue this conversation. We believe that there are a lot of opportunities for participants to jump in here and drive the sector forward. We heard about the lack of storage and packaging materials on the market. We heard about the need for more cooling systems, whether those are mobile or stationary. We heard about packaging. We heard about the need for plastic crates to facilitate movement, transportation of agricultural produce, particularly fruits and vegetables. So yes, there are a lot of opportunities here, and we will be looking into this further. As I said at the beginning of the webinar, this is a monthly webinar series. We are coming together on the first Wednesday of every single month to treat a different topic. Today we looked at fruits and vegetables. Next month we will be looking at cocoa. Cocoa is one of the products that have been growing, or the crops that have been growing in Nigeria for many decades. And for the longest time we actually had a dependency on it. At the moment, not anymore. But we really want to dive into that topic as well. Look at opportunities here, look about what is happening. How can we reduce some of those losses? How can we use some of these products in various, in new ways? What is happening around the globe? What can we adopt for Nigeria? So again, it's going to be a really interesting conversation. Many of you have signed up for the entire webinar series up until the end of the year, but for those of you who haven't, please watch out for our social media announcements regarding our speakers for the next session and sign up to participate again. Again, a thank you to our speakers, to our moderator, Mr. Bola, to our speakers, Ruth and Naimeke, as well as Zainab. And we really thank the audience members for their contributions, for their participations, for the questions. And we look forward to seeing you again next month. Before we leave, I'll just ask our speakers to come back to switch on the video briefly and to just share with us within 1 or 2 sentences what their hopes for the sector are, what are their plans, what are their next steps in terms of the contribution that they want to make to Nigeria to reduce food losses and food waste, particularly with fresh fruits and vegetables. What are your hopes, what are your wishes, and what are your next steps? Over to you, Naimeke.
For me, I think really it is in our world of so much advancement in science and technology and digitalization, you know, food spoilage and food waste shouldn't even occur. And so we should embrace as much as possible technology and so to reduce it to the barest minimum in Nigeria. And I think it's doable. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Over to you, Ruth.
Thank you, Ola. So from my end, I look forward to more farmers in the very, very, very rural cocoa part of Nigeria, using trainings, being the knowledge transfer, being, you know, they've been exposed to, and of course, embracing technology and having more partners in the space, in, you know, coming to the space with these farmers to work directly with them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And finally, over to you, Mr. Bola. What are your hopes, wishes, particularly for your organization, Topan, and what are your next steps? Thank you. Mr. Bola, we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry, I didn't hear you. I didn't hear you. Sorry. Thank you very much. I think the post-harvest loss is a serious business that we need to take serious in Nigeria and in Africa. Thank you for the delegate of German industry and commerce in Nigeria bringing this team together, because this team have been working for the past 7 years for the post-harvest loss. And bringing us together, I think, is not the end today. We all still come together to see how we're going to make use of our ideas again, to make sure that we make the post-harvest loss a thing of the past in Nigeria. So we look forward for a better digital technology, good extension, smallholder farmer, to make sure that the post-harvest thing is of past. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you again to our speakers and thank you to the audience. If you have any questions, please feel free to get in touch with us. We are the Delegation of German Industry and Commerce in Nigeria. And as we said earlier, we're doing this together with SDG Market Building, an initiative by GIZ. And Zainab is here and available and ready to support you as you consider how to mitigate or reduce your own post-harvest losses. Please feel free to get in touch with us with any questions, and we will be reaching out to you with copies of the presentations later today. Thank you so much and goodbye.
Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone.